It is all over the news. Elon Musk's $44 billion acquisition of Twitter. The conversation has surrounded typically what impact will this have on Twitter and free speech and tech, or maybe what plans Musk has for the platform. To my surprise, what I've heard very little about is the actual negotiation itself. But that ends right now. But this mega negotiation that's been brewing over the past few weeks is going to be the stuff of legend.
A man's a legend.
So together, we're going to dive into all things surrounding Elon Musk, Twitter, and this negotiation. And by the end, you're going to understand what went down while gaining tons of knowledge on the 4 specific negotiation strategies Elon adopted that helped him turn from this unlikely suitor to, once again, a consummate deal maker. First, we need to understand the backstory. So I'm going to break it all down for you very quickly. The timeline begins on March 22nd, when SEC regulators, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, argued to a federal judge that someone ought to be monitoring Musk's tweets. Now, Musk has almost 86 million followers on Twitter, and so his ability to influence markets with a single tweet is a natural cause of concern from regulators in Washington. So, frustrated with this, Musk muses in a tweet that he's considering building his own social media platform. Now, fast forward to April 4th, Musk had purchased nearly $3 billion in Twitter stock. So that gave him a 9.2% share of the company, making him the company's largest shareholder. So, concerned that Musk might be considering a hostile takeover, Twitter acts quickly, and it negotiates with Musk, and it offers him a seat on its board. The thinking, no doubt, is having a maverick like Musk on the board is way safer for Twitter than having him as an external rabble-rouser. But this does not last long, because literally later that week, on April 10th, Agrawal makes a new announcement saying, no, Musk is not joining the board after all. And then, just 4 days later, Musk announces on Twitter, of course, that he's made an offer to buy 100% of Twitter shares at $54.20 a share. That represents a 38% premium over the closing price of those shares on that day. He communicates in this tweet that it is his, quote, best and final offer, and he suggests that if the offer is not accepted, he's going to reconsider his position with the company. So essentially what he's saying, it's a veiled threat. He's saying, hey, if you don't accept this, maybe I'm going to dump my 9.2% stake. And of course, if I do that, it'll seriously affect Twitter's value.
Your choice.
1 day later, the Twitter board adopts something called a poison pill defense. Now, for our purposes here, I'm not going to get into the details of what a poison pill is. Suffice to say that it's a method of preventing or slowing down a takeover from someone who is an unwanted suitor or a hostile bidder. So at least part of what's driving this poison pill defense is the worry from the board that Musk really can't get the money that he says he can have, and so he won't be able to finance his deal. But all of this changes, again, a few days later on April 21st, when Musk outlines in detail how he plans to finance this acquisition. So he indicates he has substantial commitments from Morgan Stanley and other financial institutions, and that he's leveraging his own stake in Tesla. And then, amazingly, just a few days later, on April 25th, the Twitter board and Musk announced the deal. So now let's look at the negotiation moves that Musk took to turn this nearly impossible deal into reality. And I just want to be clear also, each of these moves is completely consistent with best practices in negotiation that I would advise to any client or any student.
I'm listening.
The first thing he does so incredibly well is improve his BATNA. So as a reminder, in negotiation, we use the term BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, to mean whatever it is we're going to do if we don't reach an agreement with the other side. So on March 22nd, remember, the SEC suggests that Musk's tweets should be monitored. So basically, his BATNA at this point is to become more conservative with his tweets, because there's this risk that the SEC might act against him. So what does he do? Well, he takes a multi-pronged approach. While signaling he's prepared to build his own social media platform, that'd be improving his BATNA, he also buys a very large stake in Twitter. That also improves his BATNA. Concerned that Musk may indeed be trying to buy stock for a takeover, the Twitter board makes their own strategic negotiation decision. If they're concerned that he's a spoiler, they're thinking it's better to have this spoiler on the inside with us, where we can monitor him and constrain him, than have him on the outside, where he can continue to be a maverick and a renegade. But then, once Musk has his board seat, his voice and his platform are even bigger. He has just gained even more leverage. And so within a few days, he realizes that he may not achieve his goals on the board, and he resigns. But even off the board, his platform and leverage have already grown. So, by the time Musk makes his offer to buy Twitter, he already knows that the board is going to be opposed to his offer. So what does he do? This is the second strategic move. Really great negotiators work to win the support of stakeholders who are not at the negotiation table, so they are not the decision makers, but they have sway with the decision makers. They can influence those decision makers at the table. So let's see how Musk did this. When the Twitter board announces its poison pill strategy, Musk knows that the people at the table on the board, at least for the moment, are not exactly thrilled with his offer. So what does he do? He identifies stakeholders who are not at the decision table, but who will influence those at the table. Specifically, he looks to two groups. First, Twitter shareholders themselves, and secondly, the nearly 86 million people who follow him on Twitter.
Oh my gosh, I actually don't think I'm one of those 86 million followers. I better do that right now. 86 million, one follower.
He indicates first, if the board doesn't take him seriously, he will go over their head and directly to the shareholders. And then he issues this brilliant tweet. And of course, the results are wildly in his favor. 83.5% of them say it should be up to the shareholders, not the board. Now, let's be clear. Legally, the decision basically is up to the board, not the shareholders. But by reaching out to these external stakeholders, Musk is able to put enormous public pressure on the board and shift their opinion and shift the public's opinion. At the very least, right, the board has to take Musk seriously here. This, to me, is a stroke of negotiation brilliance. Third, Elon Musk understands, as all great negotiators do, the interests of the other side, specifically the interests of the decision makers. Because at the same time he's using the external stakeholders to place pressure on the board, he's also playing this inside game. Every great negotiator needs to understand, what does the world look like from the perspective of the people we are trying to influence? And Musk knows that while all humans like to be liked, ultimately a board's duty is to operate under a legal doctrine which is known as shareholder primacy. So Musk knows that the board needs to consider this offer. After all, it's a 38% premium over the stock price, as long as he can demonstrate that he has secured the financing. And so, having drummed up enough public support for his bid, he works relentlessly to make sure he gives the decision makers a choice that change their reluctance and opposition to an acquisition into a yes. He does this by securing the financing he needs, and he knows that with the financing and the premium, this becomes a yes decision for the board. Finally, really great negotiators leverage and build their own brand and reputation. So one of the negotiation lessons I learned from Harvard Law School professor and negotiation expert Bob Bordone is that great negotiators soar with their strengths and they manage their weaknesses. In other words, they leverage their brand. And Musk has a brand that is known as a determined and persistent maverick, someone who makes things happen when he has his heart set on it. He's also known as a brilliant tactician who makes fast decisions. And in this case, Musk leverages his reputation to coordinate many moving parts at breakneck speed. He shifts public opinion, seemingly making the SEC irrelevant, since if Twitter goes private, they won't be able to monitor his tweets. And then he turns a reluctant and hostile board into an easy yes. So these 4 steps: improve your BATNA, cast a wide net to win the support of influential stakeholders not at the table, understand the other side's interests and give them an easily yesable proposition, and lean into your own brand and reputation as soaring with your strengths and managing your weaknesses. But of course, the deal isn't totally finished yet. So let me offer a bit of coaching to Musk in the next few weeks. He needs to continue to address the concerns and interests of key stakeholders who could spoil this deal or destroy its value. So in this negotiation, there are some key stakeholders who will really be necessary if Musk wants to achieve his goal and acquire Twitter and make it a bigger success than it's already been. Who are these people? They are the current employees of Twitter. They are the regulators who will look at whether the deal passes muster and can move forward. And they are the average users of Twitter. Musk needs to turn his attention to these stakeholders and continue to work his magic. And if he can do that, this will be a deal for the ages. Stay here now as we turn from the world of business to diplomacy, and as I assess Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky as a negotiator. Okay, keep watching Zelensky. He's awesome.